Hey everybody, Beacatron here. Sorry for the wind if it interferes with the microphone any, but I'm here to share another item today. And I'm going to give some tips and tricks on this item. This item is from Trumgeta. And I just want to say right off, Trumgeta has world-class customer support. And I'll explain that in a minute. So I have the overlanding bed rack. And I think this thing turned out really good looking on this truck. And one thing I'll say is when you start putting it on, it starts to seem kind of flimsy, but I can tell you now that this thing ain't going nowhere. It's not moving. So it does tighten up all the way around. But I think it turned out looking pretty good. And now I'm going to show you some tips and tricks I had. So the way that you connect this part right here to the railing system, there's these little brackets in there. And I will show you one of those brackets. So this is what the brackets look like. They slide, you take this end off here and you slide this into that. I had an issue with the first set that came with the bed rack. They were not threaded, so the bolts would not go into the holes. But this is where Trumgeta's customer support comes in. I contacted them, showed them a quick video of what was going on, and immediately they were like, hey, we see the problem. We're going to rectify this problem. We've sent you new threaded out brackets. So threaded out brackets, this thing went on no problem. One trick I will give you if you're installing this is these things tend to push to the back of the rail system, and the screws are not long enough to reach all the way to the back of the rail system and grab the holes that are threaded on the brackets that work. Sorry for the blurriness. So what you do, or what I did, is I actually took their instructions and took the pages that I was no longer using and ripped a page out of that, or ripped a section of the paper off, folded it up, stuck it in behind this, and put it into the rail system, and the paper held it further enough towards the front that the bolts were actually able to catch it. So what I ended up doing is folding these pieces of paper, which is actually parts of the instructions, and what I did is I placed, you can kind of see that one in there, I kind of placed that folded piece of paper in behind the little bracket when you put it in. And what that does is it allows that bracket to be pushed closer to the side with the screws here, allowing the screw to make contact. And then if you just so wish, you can just reach in with a pair of needle nose pliers and pull the paper right back out. And then the bracket's still connected. Has no weight on what the paper does, because when you put the screws in, it actually pulls the bracket to this plate and holds it to the railing system here. So, and then you can go around and pull the paper out with needle nose pliers if you want to. Honestly, I just left it in there because it's going to degrade and fall out anyway. You don't really need it. You might actually be able to see some of the paper right back there behind that one. You can see it right there. Well, yeah, you get the point. But anyway, but yeah, I think this thing turned out looking pretty good. Trumgeta, world-class customer support, and I appreciate them so much for this bed rack. I'm going to get some really good use out of this one. I've already planned what I'm going to do with it. I'd like to get some of those gas cans and water cans to attach to the side of it, potentially a high lift jack at some point, especially when I increase the size of my tires, and just hunting and fishing, carrying fishing poles across the top of it, things like that. I'm just going to get a lot of use out of this, and I'll post videos or up on YouTube showing how I'm using it at times. But yeah, Trumgeta, gotta tell you, knocked it out of the park with this one. I really like the way it looks. I'll do a far off shot. So here's a far off shot of it. I really like how it turned out. And of course, you can go as far as the rail on the front, as far as the rail forward goes, and on the back as far as the rail back goes, but that's where I wanted it. That's where I feel like I'm going to get the most use out of it. So yeah, I'm Beacatron. This is another video from my Tacoma, and thanks for watching.